All right, welcome. This is the Call to Freedom. It is Monday, April the 8th of 2019. I am your host, as always, Aria of the anarchistshemale.com. Joined in the studio today by
Michael Hampton from bitcoinhistory.com.
And I have a long night ahead of me, it would seem, because after Call to Freedom tonight, I'm going to be on Free Talk Live, which, of course, is the show that comes on immediately after hours. And then I am debuting my new show, Aria Uncensored.
Wait, what? You're going to be on for 6 hours straight, and then you're going to do a totally new show for how long?
I don't know, between 1 hour and 2 hours.
Between 1 and 2. That's if Twitch doesn't ban you, right?
Yes, that is if Twitch doesn't ban me. Because I will be topless through the entire show. And I think that's going to be hilarious.
That is going to be a little funny.
It is. It is absolutely going to be funny. I'm looking forward to doing it, but I really expect my voice to be giving out around that time.
Yeah, you may need a little break between shows there.
Yeah. Well, I didn't schedule a break between them. It probably would have been a good idea to. And if it turns out to be necessary, I can always schedule Aria Uncensored to start at 10:06 or something like that. But usually that 7-minute-ish break, I guess it's closer to 9 minutes. Yeah. It's not important. It's usually enough for me to have a cigarette and collect myself and come back on and do something else. But it's going to be fun. The Christmas Eve edition of Free Talk Live, or maybe it was New Year's Eve, I don't recall which, but I ended up doing radio for like 10 hours.
Yeah, we were up to like, 2, 3 a.m.?
Yeah, because of Freer Talk Live. It went on for a while.
Yeah, it was quite a while. I'm pretty sure I was here for that.
Yeah, it was very entertaining. I don't remember who was on, but it was really fun. And so, of course, lots happening today. Michael, you brought in a story that I found really interesting regarding the happiness recession.
Oh, yes.
There's also more information about that psychotic United Kingdom judge who has decided that men have a right to have a human right to have sex with their wives. There's, I don't have it in front of me right now. There's other stupid things. Yale Law School has done a thing, and it demonstrates the existence of SJWs on the right.
Oh, that should be interesting.
The response to it demonstrates that existence, rather. And just gun stuff, and just a lot happened over the weekend that is worth discussing. But do you have the story about the happiness recession pulled up in front of you?
Well, I did, and then I accidentally swiped away Firefox. So,
yeah, I know how that goes.
We'll try this again. Okay, one happiness recession.
I'm curious how they define and measure happiness.
You know, this is going to be interesting, and I'll save your voice and read this story if that's fine with you.
Yeah, that would be ideal.
All right. From the Atlantic, from last week, I believe. Today's young adults are replacing church and marriage with friendships, but there's one thing for which they have no substitute. Yes, from the Atlantic.
Are they going to say Jesus?
Actually, no. People are getting rid of religion. That's one of the interesting bits of this. In 2018, happiness among young adults in America fell to a record low. The share of adults ages 18 to 34 reporting that they were very happy in life fell to 25%, the lowest level that the General Social Survey, a key barometer of American social life, has ever recorded for that population. Happiness fell most among young men, with only 22% of young men and 28% of young women reporting that they were very happy in 2018.
See, I tend not to trust those results. I read this with this theory or hypothesis a few years ago that suffering is obviously relative, and the Dunning-Kruger effect applies to it. So every individual would rate their own life suffering somewhere between 7 and 9. And sure enough, that's exactly what the results found. While they were simultaneously acknowledging that people in other parts of the world qualified as much higher. So, and that was the way I organized the survey, was to start out with rating your own suffering and like, okay, well, stacked against the people starving in Ethiopia, stacked against this, stacked against the people having bombs dropped on them, and it just got progressively worse in their comparisons, and each time they rated their suffering lower and lower and lower.
Right.
I would imagine that happiness follows the same general tendency. People like being martyrs, I would say. So if somebody says to me that, they don't rate themselves as very happy, I wouldn't put much stock into that.
Either because they're not very happy, or they don't have a frame of reference?
Both. They wouldn't know if they were happy, and I don't think they would know if they were generally unhappy. They can certainly have more acute problems, like, oh, well, I'm stressed out right now, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But, the Buddhist take on this would be to point out that the reason they're unhappy is because they have all of these desires that they're pursuing and that are going unfulfilled, and because of that lack of fulfillment, they are unhappy.
That very well could be.
Like they're looking at these $35,000 cars and $250,000 houses, and they're going, oh, I don't have any of these things, and I want them, therefore I'm unhappy.
Yeah, that would do it. We wondered whether this trend was rooted in distinct shifts in young adults' social ties, including what The Atlantic has called the sex recession. That is, a marked decline in sexual activity for this group in recent years. That has actually been happening. We have noticed that. I think we've talked about this before, too, that people are having less sex.
Oh, I don't know the stats behind it, but my general take would be that it's mostly a male problem. They seem to prefer masturbating because it's easier than having sex.
That's true. I read a headline last week said something like men prefer Xbox to women. So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, men prefer video games, something like that. It was crazy. I posted it on Facebook, but I don't think I brought it in here. It was.
I can't be terribly surprised by that. There were certainly times when I was married where I would have preferred playing video games to having sex, but I don't think at any point in my entire life have I ever said no to sex. Yes, I have, because it was from like creepy people and things like that. But to somebody I was willing to have sex with, I don't think I've ever said no to it. To me, that's a strange thing to do.
Yeah, that didn't really. I didn't really know what to make of that either, because I'm not that. I don't think I'm that sort of person.
So do they just not have the biological sex drive? Is that what's going on here? I guess what I'm asking is, have they hypothesized any sort of scientific cause that might be leading to this? Like, we're making the fish trans by dumping birth control into the water and things like that. Are we similarly affecting the sex drive of men?
That's a good question. Let's see if we can get through these stats. There may very well be an answer of sorts in here.
Well, according to The Atlantic, young people are definitely having sex. The sex between unmarried adults is not wrong at all, is at an all-time high, but fewer people are actually having it.
That sounds right.
New cases of HIV are at an all-time low. That's good news. Most women can, at last, get birth control for free and the morning after pill without a prescription. If hookups are your thing, Grindr and Tinder offer the prospect of casual sex within the hour. The phrase, if something exists, there is porn of it, used to be a clever internet meme. Now it's a truism. It was always a truism. It was just harder to find. Polyamory is a household word. Shame-laden terms like perversion have given way to cheerful sounding ones like kink. Anal sex has gone from final taboo to fifth base. Teen Vogue even ran a guide to it.
Oh, my.
They did indeed. And it caused a lot of controversy. With the exception of perhaps incest and bestiality, and of course non-consensual sex more generally, our culture has been more tolerant of sex now than at any point in the past. Well, that's certainly true, but despite all of this, American teenagers and young adults are having less sex. And I'm gonna point at men here and say that the problem is just a general lack of sex drive. Don't know what's causing it, but it's certainly something that I've experienced. And we're going to let Michael dig into the happiness recession in just a few minutes, so don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back to the Call to Freedom. If you would like to join in the conversation about the happiness recession and the sex recession, or if you have any particular take on why people are having less sex, then be sure to give us a call. That number is 603-283-6160. Again, that's 603-283-6160. Or if you want clearer quality like we do, you can use the Discord call-in lines, which you can find at discord.lrn.fm. Now, as alluded to, we are talking about the happiness recession. I'm hoping the Atlantic is going to go into additional detail, but they seem to think that it's rooted in the sex recession.
Well, there are actually four specific things that they studied here in this article, four indicators: marriage, friendship, religious attendance, and sex, in an effort to explain the happiness recession among today's young adults. So first they looked at marriage.
Which, again, what they're categorizing as a happiness recession is people saying, oh, well, I don't really consider myself to be very happy.
Right. And the figure they've got here, figure 2, the very happy lines are basically, it's kind of hard to tell because the graph is so flat, but it looks like those lines are the lowest this year, that from back to the 1970s.
I mean, it sounds like they used a sort of 1 to 5 survey. Rate yourself as, very unhappy to very happy. I imagine most people would tend toward the middle.
Yeah, most people, it seems, do tend toward the middle, and they do have a download link to download the raw data, so I guess we can get into that later if you want.
Not particularly. I mean, we've done that before, and it's really hard to pour over data while on the air and find the bits and pieces that are interesting.
That is true. Well, let's see what they found. Controlling for basic demographics and other social characteristics, married young adults are about 75% more likely to report that they are very happy compared with their peers who are not married.
Well, I mean, you kind of have to. If you're married, you kind of have to report that you're very happy.
Yeah.
Or you piss off your spouse.
Or why are you married in the first place?
Yeah. And I mean, it's possible that, the spouse would never have seen this, particular survey result anyway. But I can tell you, even on the worst days of being married, I would have put very happy.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, that's one of those huge life milestones that people are probably feeling unfulfilled because they desire it. Like having kids or having a house.
You were a lot happier because you were not married, but you're less happy because you were happier because you're married and you're less happy because you're not married.
Who, me?
You in general, or anybody.
Well, they're less happy because that's one of the things they've been taught by society to desire.
So it's not something innate to them, it's what they've been told that they should want.
Yeah, like Lamborghinis and $250,000 houses and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's part of that little road that people are supposed to walk.
Yeah.
And so they're taught basically from the time that they're children that the entire point of life is to get a career, get married, have a house, have kids. So if they don't do any of those things, I imagine they do feel unfulfilled, which of course leads to unhappiness.
Okay.
But I don't think there's anything inherently about being unmarried that is causing people to be happy, or anything about being married that causes people to be happy, except that, they feel a little bit more satisfied having knocked off one of those milestones that people are supposed to knock off.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. As it turns out, the share of young adults who are married has fallen from 59% in 1972 to 28% in 2018. The decline has been similar for men and women, although from 2016 to 2018, the share of married men fell while the share of married women rose. Wait, what?
Lesbians.
Okay.
I would assume. I wondered that at first as well. I was like, okay, but there were only heterosexual marriages in 1972. Now there are gay marriages as well. So
okay, that does explain that more, because gay marriage is legal now.
Right. It's still confusing, and it's still a complete and total waste of time to have the state rubber stamp your relationship as official. But hey, to each their own.
Yeah, well,
if you want to get the government involved in your bedroom, then go ahead and get married.
Yeah, invite them in. It's up to you.
Myself, I'd rather them stay out of the bedroom.
Yeah, go away. Data on cohabitation are not available for as long as a period, but suggest that the trend in all coupling is probably less steeply negative, though still drifting downward over time. Less coupling, then, probably explains some of the decline in happiness among young adults. Now,
well, it's definitely, the graph is definitely clear in a general trend downward, except for women, which, as they said, does spike.
Yeah, well, they've got...
That's why the alt-right incels hate lesbians, because they can't get married, but the lesbians aren't having a problem getting married.
Well, yeah, true. I don't know what's up with incels. I know people who do, but they're not calling the show. So
it's very curious. Okay, never mind. I was studying the graph. Okay. You can continue.
All right. So faith was the second factor that they studied. Young adults who attend religious services more than once a month are about 40% more likely to report that they are very happy compared with their peers who are not religious at all. And people with very infrequent religious attendance are even less happy than never attenders. In terms of happiness, a little religion is worse than none.
You know, it just occurred to me, I imagine that when people are asked this sort of question, like, are you happy in a serious context, rather than thinking about all the things that make them happy, they probably immediately focus on the things that don't, the things that are wrong in their lives, and things like that. Pessimism, I guess, is what I would suspect from most people. Because that's what I would do if I was faced with the question of, you know, are you very happy? I would first think, well, yeah, well, there's this and this and this and this, so no, I guess not. But yeah, I am very happy because I don't dwell on that negative crap, and neither does the average person. They don't sit around stewing in all the things that are wrong in their lives. But when asked the question like this, I imagine that those things come to the forefront of their minds and taint the results of these surveys.
Are you happy? Give us a call.
Yeah. 603-283-6160.
All right. In the meantime, what is happening to religious attendance among young adults today? The share of young adults who attend religious services more than monthly has fallen from 38% in 1972 to 27% in 2018, even as the share who never attend has risen rapidly.
I'm happy with all of those stats.
Among young men, non-attendance is much more common than regular attendance, and the gap is steadily growing. Less involvement in the life of a local church, mosque, temple, or synagogue, we speculate, might translate into less happiness for young adults.
Yeah, it might, sure, but correlation is not causation. I would say that the two pieces of data are more than likely going to be entirely unrelated.
Yeah, more research is probably needed there.
Because generally, as people become secular, I would argue they probably become happier. There is that period, you know, where they feel...
in the middle.
Yeah,
they did mention
where they feel like, you know, they've awakened, and now it's their responsibility to go out and wake up all the sleeping, stupid theists. And being unable to do that probably causes them significant unhappiness, but that's a temporary thing. It usually goes away. Well, this is the Call to Freedom. We're going to talk more about the happiness recession, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back. This is the Call to Freedom and the Rational Review News Digest, located at rationalreview.com. It's the Freedom Movement's daily news digest, aggregating stories from all over the internet that are of interest to libertarians and liberty-minded people. They include podcasts, videos, blogs, and news articles, and are now a source for people to receive the Call to Freedom's podcasts. So be sure to check them out. Again, that's rationalreview.com. And we've been discussing the happiness recession and the sex recession. Now, going after those clicks, The Atlantic has directly linked the two in its headline, suggesting that the sex recession is making people unhappy.
Yeah, it is one of the things that they looked at. They did look at four distinct factors. We covered two of them, marriage and religion. The third factor that they looked at was friendship, and I really don't think they found much.
Well, they probably weren't looking for a lot. I mean, they're looking at stupid things. When I would ask somebody whether or not they were happy, and they gave me an answer, marriage status and religious attendance are not the things I would look for as being problematic contributing factors. Mm-hmm. I would go to friendship first. So why they're even going to it as the third factor behind religious attendance and marriage and things like that? Why not relationship status? I would prefer seeing that over marriage.
Good question.
But they do seem to suggest that they didn't find a whole lot of correlation between friendship and happiness.
Yeah, there really wasn't all that much. The effect of seeing friends frequently is less clear than that of marriage or religion, but young adults who see their friends regularly do seem to be about 10% more likely to report being very happy than their less sociable peers. That's you if you're in your basement. Friendship among young adults, though, is not on the decline. In fact, since 2006, contact with friends is up. Lack of friendship, then, is not likely to play a role in declining levels of happiness.
Now, do they define contact with friends as being in person or via social media?
The stat they're presenting is share of 18 to 34-year-old men and women regularly spending an evening with friends in real life.
Okay, good. Because there's certainly reason to believe that social media makes people unhappy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's Facebook. I mean, you're a lot easier to manipulate when you're unhappy. I'm sure you remember Facebook getting caught manipulating people's feeds to change their emotional states.
Yeah, working with a university in California. I want to say it was Berkeley, but I don't remember exactly which. But yeah, they were making it so that some people only saw negative news stories and some people only saw positive ones. They treated their users like lab rats.
Yeah, and I'm sure they still do.
Oh, I'm sure.
Based on what I see in my feed, I'm pretty sure.
I don't pay any attention to it. I am back on Facebook, technically, but it's all done by Telegram. So even though my account is active again, I don't ever actually go to Facebook.
You just have a Telegram thing that... How does that work?
It took some backdoors and some clever web hooking and things like that. But yes, you can, in fact, post to personal pages on Facebook. It's just not easy to do.
Speaking of pages, there is an app, Facebook Pages Manager, which just lets you manage pages.
Yes, but you have to have an active Facebook account in order to do it.
So is your Facebook account not active?
It is now, but it was inactive. It was deactivated for, I don't know, about maybe 2.5, 3 weeks. And again, it's technically active now, but commenting on my posts and things like that, I'm never going to see it.
You're not going to see that because you're not logging into Facebook.
No,
you're using an app.
Yeah, I just have an app sending stuff to it because that's where most of my personal audience is on Facebook, and that's probably because I spent so much time sort of building it and cultivating those relationships
on Facebook.
Yeah. Whereas now I'm doing it primarily on Twitter and Twitch and YouTube and places like that, and Discord.
Right.
So I get to avoid Facebook while technically using Facebook. But it may be that rising social time spent with friends in recent years could be buffering young adults from the declines in institutions such as marriage or religion, as friends stand in place of other relationships or forms of community. Okay, so they're asserting here that being unmarried and being unreligious are making people unhappy, but they're offsetting that with friendship, which is just absolute BS that they have made up, and that they don't even have the factual basis to support that.
Yeah, I don't think the numbers support that.
No, they certainly don't. But they're going to assert it anyway, evidently.
Well, I guess so.
That's bizarre. Oh, these two things are definitely making... You should get back to the church and engage in your little monogamous cis-hetero marriage. Then you'll be happy.
Yeah, that'll make you happy. Sure.
But if you can't do that, have a couple of friends to buffer the misery that this is going to cause you.
Yeah, go hang out and watch Netflix in real life with your friends.
It's shocking to come from the Atlantic, which is generally kind of leftist, is it not?
It is kind of leftist.
But finally, they looked at the big thing that humans are biologically programmed to derive happiness from.
Sex. Didn't they? I'll keep reading this if you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Young adults who have sex at least once a week are about 35% more likely to report that they are very happy compared with their peers who have no sex. But the share of young adults having sex at least once a week has fallen from 59% in 1972 to 49% in 2018.
I can't even... I can't pick that apart.
No, it gets better.
People are having less sex and people are less happy. To me, although correlation is certainly not causation, my gut tells me that those two things are probably related.
They probably are. Now, this decline is far steeper among men.
Told you. I told you it's a dude problem.
Yes, it is. Down from 58% of young men having sex at least weekly in 2010 to just 43% in 2018. So this is whatever's going on has happened in the last decade.
Yeah. I have not been sexually active with men throughout the last decade, but I would definitely say that the ubiquity of pornography and masturbation has certainly increased throughout the last decade or so.
I don't know. We had YouPorn 10 years ago.
We did, but it was less something that people were willing to talk about openly, I would say. I mean, because we're not just more open about sex now. We're also more open about pornography.
Pornography, yeah.
And now it's just sort of expected to admit that you watch pornography. I mean, who doesn't watch pornography, right? But 10 years ago, one would not have been as willing to say that.
People would not have been as willing to admit it. And 20 years ago, nobody would tell you they watched porn.
No.
That's something you would do in secret.
No, yeah, wives would divorce their husbands for watching porn and things like that. It was absolutely bizarre.
Still will.
Yeah, they will. And that's bizarre as well. But I don't know what is causing the laziness, because it's absolutely lazy, and that's why I uninstalled the Grindr app. It was just a complete waste of time of guys who wouldn't drive a mile or who wouldn't stay up an extra 45 minutes to have sex.
Wow.
Because it was easier just to rub one out and go to sleep.
They're on an app specifically for hooking up.
Yes, but see, that was where the problem lied, and I imagine this is mostly true of Tinder as well, is that they're not actually looking for hookups. They're looking to engage in sexting, sort of. They're looking to have one particular fetish or interest fulfilled to assist them in rubbing one out.
Okay, what's the point of that?
I don't know, but I encountered it at least once a day.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
If you're one of these people, please call us because we want to talk to you and find out what's going on here. Why don't you want to have sex?
Yeah, and we will help you stay anonymous. We won't out you or anything like that. But we would definitely like to hear from you because I want to know what it is about people's hands that they find better than actual sex.
I don't know.
That to me is crazy. This is the Call to Freedom. Welcome back to the Call to Freedom. And maybe you want to have sex with prostitutes and then arrest them, or bust people for drugs and then sell the drugs on the side for a nice little bonus. If you've ever wanted to enjoy the power rush of being a cop without all the paperwork, then you should try the Thin Blue Line game, which can be found at thinbluelinegame.com. It's the only card game in the world that allows you to shoot somebody over a broken taillight and then escape accountability with the magical phrase, "I feared for my life." You know, typical cop stuff. Get it now at thinbluelinegame.com. Assault and battery is not included, but for a limited time, you can order your copies and use the coupon code CTF to have all shipping costs waived. So go get it. Again, that's thinbluelinegame.com. And we've been talking about the happiness recession and the sex recession as opposed to, just historical trends of people rating themselves to be more happy than they do today. But we're joined now by Lauren, who is calling in via discord.lrn.fm, who has thoughts on relationships and the evident decline in people pursuing them. So,
what's on your mind, Lauren?
Well, as you've said, there is like a decline of people wanting actual relationships and just wanting a quick fix, which I think is how things are going now. People are far too busy with life now that they just don't have time for relationships. A lot of this, from what I've heard, is mostly in Japan and Korea, where people just don't have time anymore. They've never had time in school, and they surely don't have time in work either.
But would this not lead at least to an increase in the usage of Grindr and Tinder, and perhaps more sexual and more successful sexual hookups via those apps? Because whether or not people are seeking relationships, I would imagine that they should, being used loosely, still be seeking sex.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what's going on, but there's no sort of commitment anymore. People don't want commitments.
I've encountered that before. This is definitely an era of more casual sex. That's certain.
Most definitely.
I don't know whether or not it's a good thing or a bad thing. I've also never really had a hard time finding relationships when I seek them out. But and I'm a pretty busy person. Now, it's true that I don't have a great deal of time these days to pursue a relationship. But part of the parameters of that relationship is that, hey, I'm a busy person, and I'm not going to be there if you text me at 11 o'clock at night needing something. So
yeah.
I would hope that more people would be finding ways to have healthy relationships accommodate their lifestyles, rather than attempting to pursue various relationships simply because it's what they're supposed to do.
Well, I really see your point on that one. It's just that, as I have said, people just don't have time anymore, and finding people who you have stuff in common with, as well as that has the time that you have, that's hard to come by.
You're absolutely correct about that.
This is actually surprising to me, and I don't have much experience with this because I've been in long-term relationships for most of the last decade, so I haven't really had much use for these apps, or even like Tinder, OkCupid, whatever. I haven't had much experience with them because I've been in relationships until recently, so it's really surprising.
Well, the apps have improved that scene a bit. Like if you go out to a bar looking for a hookup, you might or might not find somebody who has any interest whatsoever in the same things that you're interested in.
Probably not. By
using Grindr or Tinder or OkCupid or even Facebook, because some people do that, you have a better chance of screening people that you're more likely to share these interests with. I mean, especially on these dating apps or hookup apps that are specifically designed for that. Oh, you're into BDSM? Hey, so is this person. And they won't exactly, it's not a matchmaking tool or anything like that, but generally, I mean, you can message them and find out within a few seconds whether or not they're interested in the same things that another person is. But even then, I don't think the hookups actually proceed to an actual hookup more than probably 0.5% of the time.
Now, you were saying something last segment that some people are on these apps just to look for someone to help them masturbate?
Yes. That happened, as I said, when I was using the app to attempt to engage in these hookups. That happened about once a night, where I would be talking with somebody and it's like, all right, finally going to do this. And then they suddenly vanish. And it is obvious every single time what has happened.
Oh, my.
They rubbed one out and went to sleep.
Well, that's nice of them. I mean, you could have gotten porn for that. Why'd you have to get someone else involved?
I don't know. There's something about the back and forth that seems to appeal to people, or that seems to heighten their masturbatory fantasies.
I don't know. I don't get this. I might be too old, but I don't get it.
Lauren, did you have any other thoughts on the sex recession or the relationship recession?
Oh, I think it's definitely to do with the porn industry, because a lot of young people now are learning from that.
Yeah, that's definitely an issue. Porn is not a good place to learn anything about sex.
It's not at all.
But so many people think it is, and then they might even, and this is pure speculation, they might engage in an actual sexual encounter and go, wow, that was nothing like what porn led me to believe it was going to be.
Yeah. Well, I think it's still taboo, especially within, like, certain groups of people. So it's harder to bring up.
Like porn is considered
they can't
taboo?
Talk about it.
That's disappointing. I'm an open person. I will tell anyone anything they want to know about me for the most part. But especially sexual things like that, I just have absolutely no shame about. Like later tonight, I'm doing a show completely topless because of that lack of shame. I wish that more people would engage in that sort of thing and not doing topless shows and things like that. I recognize that that's a bit far for the average person, but just being able to openly talk with other human beings about one's sexual tendencies and pornography tendencies is healthy.
Yes, it is.
It is. Like, to talk about it and to learn from the experience just from talking, that definitely helps people, but I think it's a case of a lot of people are just riddled with anxiety, and it stops them from just talking to other people because they're shy to, because their body is telling them, oh, this is wrong, you shouldn't ask.
That's certainly problematic.
To be honest, that's me.
Yeah, a shy person who is exceptionally, I guess, withdrawn on certain subjects because of the taboos associated with them.
Yeah, but also just generally.
Just generally shy?
I'm shaking right now.
Oh my goodness, no, you're doing great. It's been a great conversation.
You're fine. We're just having a chat.
Yeah, it's been a great conversation.
I know. It's just...
we're certainly not anything to be nervous about.
I know, but it's been like, what? I'm 18 now. I was on like a radio show when I was 13.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, you're welcome to call in anytime. Do you have any last thoughts you'd like to get out regarding relationships?
I think it's also a case of, like, people don't want to pick up the pieces when, something happens.
It's easier to just walk away.
Yeah, it's easier to walk away because they don't want to try to fix the problem. They're like, it's too much work. I don't want to deal with this. I'm out.
That's true.
Yeah, I can see that.
And it's disappointing if that is the case with people, because I mean that's part of the give and take in relationships. I mean, if you're going to attach yourself to this other person, they're another person. They have their own battles to fight, their own ups and downs, their own problems, their own things to deal with, and so do you. If you expect somebody else to deal with yours, maybe that's the issue here, is that everybody is cultivating this mentality that they alone should be the ones who deal with their problems, and that they shouldn't be shared with other people, which of course leads to isolation. And it would, I imagine, it would lead to people saying things like, well, no, I don't want to help you deal with your problems because I'm dealing with my own things by myself, so you deal with your things by yourself.
And the thing about it is, I'm looking for that kind of mutually supportive partnership relationship.
Right.
I don't want this little hookup. So,
well, I mean, I can go for the hookup. I'm not opposed to that, but I certainly do want the mutually supportive relationship.
Right.
Because I don't like being alone. I don't like being the only one standing in my corner. And having somebody there is a tremendously valuable thing. We'll be back with more of this discussion. Don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back. This is The Call to Freedom. I'm your host, as always, Aria preparing for, in just a few hours, launching Aria Uncensored, which you can watch at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, just after Free Talk Live at twitch.lrn.fm. We weren't sure whether we were going to have it on the LRN Twitch channel, but Ian has decided, yes, we are.
Okay.
Which should be interesting. I'm going to feel really bad if the channel gets banned for it. But even then, first-time offense, I think it would just be a 30-day ban, so it would be temporary at best, but it would still be awkward, you know? But it's going to be awesome. So tune in for that. And I'm joined, of course, by
Michael Hampton from BitcoinHistory.com.
And we've been discussing the happiness recession, as The Atlantic characterizes it, in which they attribute to the sex recession and the general tendency of people younger than, I think, 35 was the age they gave, to have less sex. And that, to me, it's surprising considering how sexualized our society really is. But it's also trouble to have sex. It takes effort, you know.
It takes a little bit of work. You have to actually go and find somebody. Then you have to actually convince them that it would be a good idea and actually...
Not necessarily. Things like Tinder and Grindr were supposed to cut all of that out.
Oh, yes, that's true.
So, I mean, especially among people my age, you know, that age group, that's where these apps are most heavily used.
You were telling me that you got on Grindr and you had this experience of somebody talking to you and they were not wanting to hook up, but just to I don't know, to sext you and rub one out.
Yeah, I had that experience repeatedly. It's one of the reasons I finally just left Grindr. That, and I just kind of moved on. It was just a thing I did for a few months, you know, because I was out of Mississippi and finally able to explore some things that I'd wanted to explore. So it seemed like a good idea, but it was by and large a complete and total waste of time. Led to so many dead ends. And because of that kind of thing, people are like, oh, I think I'd rather just rub one out. Lauren, you are on right now, yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I just kept quiet because
Welcome back.
Yes, hi.
And we're joined by Lauren, who is called in via discord.lrn.fm.
Lauren, where are you calling from?
England.
England, okay.
Now, not to change the subject, but your Twitch handle is Lauren the Game Freak.
Yes.
What sort of games?
Just any sort of games, Yakuza, Grand Theft Auto, but I haven't streamed that yet. Assassin's Creed, Stardew, just a various bunch. I'm not picky.
So you stream as well?
Yes, I haven't been doing it often. Right now, I just have no motivation.
Right, I know how that goes. Yeah, there was like a 2-month period where I didn't stream any video games. That's cool. I'm going to be sure to check out your channel later.
Yes, there should still be a couple videos up. If not, I might stream tomorrow.
Very cool.
Might.
I've been streaming a lot of Smite lately, but I think I'm going to return to streaming Zelda here in the near future. But that's going to be Tuesdays only, apparently. But people are having less sex today, apparently, and there is data to support this. The average adult has gone from having sex 62 times a year to 54 times a year, which is still more than once a week.
Yeah, but how do they? I don't have the stats you're looking at in front of me. Do they break that down by age group?
They do not right here. They may later or previously, but a given person might not notice this decrease, they say, but nationally it adds up to a lot of missing sex. I'm sure it does. I mean, having sex once every 6 days or whatever ultimately adds up to a lot less sex than having sex, or to a lot more sex than having sex every 7 days.
Right.
But, you know, I don't understand. A lot of married couples do engage in that sort of we have sex once a week thing. I don't get it. You know, when I was married, we have sex almost every single day. And if we did it, it was because at the time I was on painkillers and just had no sex drive. But even then, we still had sex multiple times a week. I don't understand. If you have it right there in the bed with you and you're both interested, why wouldn't you have sex?
Good question.
That's definitely a good question. I would say 1 to 2 times a week is still quite a lot.
It is.
Give or take.
Yeah.
And I will admit that I do have a higher sex drive than normal, but even then, having every day is a bit hyperbolic. It was more like every other day, because your sex drive just doesn't replenish that quickly. Yeah, I mean, I was like 21 then, so
yeah.
plenty of sex drive, right?
The days when I could go every night or twice a night are long gone. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah, those twice a night nights. Yeah, those were good nights though. Anyway.
I'm probably the only one here who has no actual experience with this, and it's just me sharing my opinion about said thing.
Oh my!
No opinion in regard to. I mean,
no experience.
No experience with sex at all, or
nope.
Wow, interesting.
Oh my goodness!
Is this by choice or just something you just never pursued?
I don't go outside.
It definitely helps to go outside. I mean, you can use Tinder and things like that and have it.
No,
more or
I
less
would never
delivered.
do that.
I feel you. Yeah, there is certainly a bit.
I don't like the idea of meeting a complete stranger and just hitting it off from there. There's got to be chemistry.
Yeah, I don't blame you at all on that. It's certainly dangerous. There was one occasion where somebody actually stole my car keys in an attempt to try to get me to stay the night with them. Luckily,
that's creepy.
Yeah. Luckily, I learned a lot from my mother, who made a lot of very poor decisions. And she always kept her car keys hooked onto her belt loop with one of those little springy things. I don't know what they're called. But so I've always done something similar. Through most of my life, I've had one of those. But now that I wear exclusively like skirts and dresses, that's not an ideal solution. So I just had an extra car key hidden in my purse in a pocket that nobody else even knows about. And when I went out there to my car and found that my car keys were 100% gone, I started to go back in there to get them. Then I thought better about it. I was like, no way. I will get Will or some other friend to come back with me to get these car keys.
Right.
But I've 100% expected an email or some sort of message a few days later saying, "Oh, I found your car keys. They somehow tumbled out of your purse." But it
somehow.
Never, somehow.
Never happened.
No, it never happened. So somebody out there has a copy of my car keys, but they don't know where I live or anything like that. So, but the whole experience was really creepy.
That's so creepy to me.
Yeah.
That's as if someone had stolen your house keys and just made a copy of it. That is scary.
Well, there were no house keys on it. It was just my car keys. There were house keys, but it was I don't know what actually was on that particular keychain, but there weren't any house keys at least.
I've had keychains with house keys from old houses that I didn't live in anymore.
But now, because of this experience and because I no longer have a spare car key, it's just standard practice for me when I get out of my vehicle to put the lanyard around my neck, because Will gave me a Mega Man lanyard, and it's just easier. I will know if somebody yanks them off of my neck.
Oh, yeah.
And I will shoot them for doing it.
My personal opinion, put them in your bra. That's it. No one is going to be able to go in that area without being caught.
That's true.
That's true.
Because I would certainly remove the lanyard from my neck in order to engage in sex. I would remove them from my bra as well. But by that point, I've made the decision to have sex with this person, and usually afterwards, people are not creepy. But yeah, certainly somebody who is stealing material from George Costanza from Seinfeld in real life is a bit of a creep.
Yeah, that's beyond creepy.
I mean, it really was a George Costanza kind of move, in that episode where he intentionally left his hat behind or something like that so that he had an excuse to go back over. Very, very similar to just stealing someone's car keys. And I never drop my car keys, right? So there's no possibility that I just dropped them outside and wasn't aware of it or anything like that. I'm actually very careful with these kinds of things. Again, because of the experiences of watching my mother deal with this kind of crap that she, put herself in those situations to deal with through most of her life. Well, this is the Call to Freedom. We're going to talk more about relationships, so don't go anywhere. Oh, All right, welcome back. This is the Call to Freedom, and as always, you're invited to give us a call. That number is 603-283-6160. Again, that's 603-283-6160. Or you can use the Discord call-in lines, which you can find at discord.lrn.fm. And we've been going over the the happiness recession, according to The Atlantic, which they attribute primarily to the sex recession.
That seems to be the case.
And we've been going over various things like hookup apps such as Grindr and Tinder and things like that you would expect to be increasing the amount of sex that people are having. But they don't seem to be having that result at all. If anything, they may be responsible for decreasing the amount of sex that people have. And it kind of makes sense now that I've stopped to think about it, because people use Grindr and Tinder and things like that in the comfort of their own home already. A lot, especially with my hours, a lot of the times that I was talking with people on Grindr, I was aware that, they were already in bed or home for the night or whatever. So when you're using a hookup app, you're already at home, so you're disinclined to leave again. But if you're going out to a bar to find a hookup, you're already there. You're already invested in the event. So I could see how the ubiquity or the increasing ubiquity of hookup apps is actually decreasing the amount of sex people are having, because then they do have to get up and leave the home or just otherwise make themselves presentable while someone else comes over.
Well, they'd have to do that for sex anyway, even without these apps.
Yes, but they're already out there doing that without the apps. They're already out at the bar, looking for sex and things like that. When using the hookup app, they're not. I mean, they're not sitting at, the Thirsty Owl here in Keene, which accepts cryptocurrency, by the way, whipping out their phone using Grindr and Tinder, trying to find a hookup. They're sitting at home. They're probably pooping or taking a bath or lying in bed. I mean, really, they probably are.
Or like they're taking a bath or a shower.
Well, hopefully they're not taking a shower, but they could certainly be taking a bath.
Waterproof phones, so probably.
Well, when I worked at Radio Shack just after I graduated college, what I found was the number of people willing to come in and tell you that they dropped their phone in the toilet was shocking. Like, I would say anything else if I had dropped my phone in the toilet. Oh, yeah, I was stepping over a puddle and dropped it and it fell in. Yeah, no biggie. But I need a new phone. They would come in and say, totally without shame, I was pooping and dropped it into the toilet.
Oh, my goodness.
How? Why? People, come on.
I don't get... Why do people bring their phones to the bathrooms anyways?
Because they're addicted to Facebook.
Me, but comment. I don't have an addiction to the point where I bring my phone with me.
Well, because I don't think it's because of Facebook per se. I think it's just because, we've gotten used to just constant stimulation. So just sitting there on a toilet doing nothing feels like wasted time.
Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, even before people started taking their phones to the bathroom, as I was growing up, my father always had a book sitting on the toilet because he would go in there and while he was...
Lots of people had books and magazines and whatnot in the bathroom.
The difference is that it's less gross to do that because that stays in there. You're not putting that up to your mouth 5 minutes later.
Yeah, and you don't usually drop those in the toilet. I don't know how people do that.
I imagine people do drop them in the toilet. Well, it was definitely a lot more dudes reporting that than women. So I imagine for the most part, it was them standing up to pee and having it slip out of their hands.
Oh, okay. So they're standing up with the phone over the toilet.
Yeah, like an idiot, right?
Right. Come on.
Oh, this is just amusing.
But we do
this every day.
I would be horrified to learn the results of fecal matter tests on the average phone.
Oh.
Oh. Ew.
I mean, this is why I don't use other people's phones. They hand me their phone. I'm like, no, thank you.
I keep my phone as clean as possible. I clean it daily, and I put hand sanitizer on daily, and I wash my hands after everything.
Bit of a germaphobe or just...
No. It's just I had a lot of issues with my hands growing up. I would always bite my nails. And yes, this is going to get gross. I had nail fungus. I had fungus infections.
Is that a result of biting them?
Yeah, that was a result of biting them. One of my nails is slightly warped because of it. Not bad anymore. It's fine now.
Interesting.
But now I have a problem of not trimming my nails.
They make
so I let them grow out too long now.
Well, I play the guitar, so I got into a habit over the years of just regularly keeping mine short. Because otherwise they get in the way.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I never had an issue with
I can definitely relate to that. I have a bass guitar, which I don't play anymore.
Oh, that's so unfortunate. Well, I'm actually
I
currently...
still have it. It just needs tuning, and I can just go back, but...
Yeah. I'm actually currently without a guitar because I left mine in Mississippi when I moved up here, because every time prior to this that I moved with a guitar, I broke it 100% every single time, no matter if I had it in a case or a bag, it somehow got broken. So I was like, it's not going to survive the trip anyway. So I'm just going to give it to someone and let them derive joy from it. And I just haven't replaced it here because I'm busy 7 days a week. It's just not a priority. It should be a priority because for me, music is a very emotional outlet. But it's not. I don't have the time to have an emotional outlet right now.
Music is like a very good stimulant because you can find almost any song about anything. Depression, anxiety, breakups, makeups, sex, friendship. You can find anything in music.
Oh, yeah.
You absolutely can. And I noticed the other day where I was at my other job, because we have different people there with different tastes in music. But the lyrics that one of the, I think it was a Taylor Swift song or something like that, it was conveying exactly the same message as like a Marilyn Manson song. It was all about vengeance and breaking up and things like that. I don't remember what it was about. And there is a Marilyn Manson song that conveys exactly the same sentiments, but with different words and different musical stylings. And I thought that was really fascinating, that you could take that one experience and interpret it into two totally different types of music, one of which made me want to kill myself, and the other which I rather enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big fan
I think it's more to do with like an opinion of the artist as well as their music. It's the tone they set for the music.
Absolutely. That's why I
so
like Marilyn
I'm
Manson.
not a fan of Taylor Swift. I don't like her music. I find it far too petty, and it's every song. It's not like a variety. She's far too petty. Like, how many songs has she made about one guy she's broke up with?
That's Taylor Swift. I mean, that's what you're getting.
I swear she's taking him. Like, I swear she's getting boyfriends to make music.
Well, Adele is probably doing the same, to be fair, and so is Stained, Aaron Lewis. Good God, if he does not stop singing about this chick, I'm going to find him and hire him a prostitute. Because he has been singing about this same chick for like 6 albums now, and it's like, dude, either get over it or start hiring hookers. This is the Call to Freedom. Welcome back. This is the Call to Freedom, broadcast as always from the Liberty Radio studio here in Keene, New Hampshire. And I knew there would be a way that they would drag it up. They brought up the Me Too era, and say that there has certainly been too much unwanted or non-consensual sex out there, which is an interesting way of saying there's been a lot of rape, which is obviously bad for the more often female target of such advances. From that perspective, the so-called sex recession just might amount to a sex recalibration, with a lot of bad sex being eliminated from our social lives. And this would be a good thing. For all these reasons, the feminist family historian Stephanie Kuntz is suspicious of any hand-wringing about the sex recession. Now, having been sexually active throughout what is now certainly the most of my life, I will reiterate that literally every single girl with whom I've had a relationship claimed that at one point she had been raped or otherwise sexually assaulted. 100%.
Yep, that the same for me, every single one.
And on those occasions where they continued talking about these experiences, it became immediately clear that there was no sexual assault. There was no rape. I don't know of any of these girls that I was extensively involved with who had actually been sexually assaulted or raped. But
I think a lot of people think that because it's more commonly talked about now, that if they claim it's happened to them, they can get more attention from it.
Yeah, it's part of the victimhood culture.
Sick to get attention from something so serious.
Yeah, it's definitely sick. There's a lot of that going around. People are itching to play the victim in whatever way they can. And I remember the Cosmopolitan article that I read when I was in junior high-ish, where they actually studied this and found that I think it was 1 in 3 women had been claiming to have been raped who weren't. And of course, in modern times, they would never run such an article.
No, that doesn't go against, that doesn't flow with the narrative.
Right. But today, even doubting any of these claims, doubting their veracity, results in widespread condemnation. And there's certainly a lot of sexual assault out there and a lot of rape out there. I'm not demeaning those people or those victims or disputing their validity. What I'm pointing out is that having all of these people claiming to have been sexually assaulted when they weren't, or claiming to have been raped because they decided 2 weeks later that they really wish they hadn't had sex with that person, cheapens and demeans them, not us. You know?
People like, more often than not, you'll find that people who have went through that experience tend to stay quiet about it. But people who are blabbermouths about it are just claiming it.
Very true. Well, I never just directly asked any of these women, have you been sexually assaulted? But like the Vegas chick who, in defense of all women everywhere, is a literal psychopath. She actually couldn't remember ever having been raped in her life, so she went to a hypnotherapist to help her recall memories of when she had been raped as a child.
So one of these people that implants fake memories.
Yeah, and she became convinced afterward that she had indeed been raped as a child. Even though it didn't actually happen, but I mean, she wanted that in her past as something that probably is something that she could use as an excuse for her own shady and immoral behavior. Right. Oh, well, I can't help it that I'm such a messed up psychopath.
I was sexually assaulted. Yeah, there are people like that.
Yeah. But it's still really common. She was peculiar in that she was just sort of seeking that and desperately trying to find some way that she could work it into her story. While for the most part, it's just something that, comes up when you're romantically involved with someone for an extended period of time. If they were raped at some point, more often than not, they're going to bring it up.
It will come up in conversation. Yeah. Yes.
I was sexually assaulted by police in the jail in Mississippi. I was not raped, but I was certainly sexually assaulted. I was made to perform a striptease for a freaking curious cop. It sucked. But the only reason I really talk about that is because of the anti-police mentality that I have. Otherwise, it's not something that enters into my head ever.
People are quite quick to use.
Lauren, we've got some kind of feedback coming on your mic.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't help that.
Well, I
do apologize.
It only just started, so if you change something within the last minute or two.
No, I think sometimes you might get feedback when I've muted and unmuted from my laptop directly. You will hear loud feedback if I use my headphones mute button.
Okay.
There's always a click with that one.
Well, it certainly seems to have resolved itself now, but the sexlessness, as The Atlantic is calling it, appears to be making some Americans less happy. And because it may be an indicator of the trouble facing young adults when it comes to love and marriage. It
might also be like a fear of domestic abuse, domestic violence.
You think so?
Possibly.
I would like to think so, because more stories are popping up, fake or not. It's putting fear in people.
Domestic violence is a red button for me. It's something I have no patience for. I grew up watching my mother get the hell beaten out of her by alcoholics. So I have no patience whatsoever for domestic violence or domestic violence jokes.
Yeah, me too. Been there, done that, over it, won't stand for it.
And as much
as I've had friends who have been through it, and I try to support, but there's only so much you can do when you haven't been through it yourself. You can only give so much advice.
Yeah, and it's kind of, I don't know what the word is or how to carry that thought forward, but it's almost like a drug addiction in that the person won't leave that particular relationship until they want to. Just like they won't leave an opiate addiction or heroin addiction or whatever until they actually want to. No amount of interventions or rehab are going to work.
Yeah, you have to want to get clean before you can get clean.
Yeah, and I wonder I wonder if there's a psychological link between people who stay in abusive relationships and people who are drug addicts.
May very well be.
Because it's the same kind of relationship in both. They have this thing in their lives that is damaging them, and they know it to be damaging them, but it brings them...
It's the fear of the pain you're going to get when you leave.
Yeah.
For drugs, that is definitely going to be the case. You are going to go through serious withdrawal symptoms, which are going to be painful as anything. But with abusive relationships, it's the fear of being caught and brought down.
What do you mean?
Because in that relationship, you're not seen, like if you're the victim, you're not seen as a person, you are seen as property.
Yeah, well, that's true in most relationships. That's why I consider myself to be polyamorous. Because people in monogamous relationships, they just default to viewing the person with whom they've involved as some sort of possession. And I don't like that at all.
It's horrible. And it's not just like males doing this to females. This is also females doing this to males.
Yeah,
I'm not going to ignore the fact that, women do this to men or even other women. The same with men doing this to other men. Everyone is going to be, everyone from a single group is going to be subjected to this, if you know what I mean.
Right.
It's
universal.
It's not just a guy doing this to a girl. It's not like that. Not anymore.
Right. And I mean,
because we're so open about the freedom of, women. Some people go over the line. I'm not going to admit. Well, I am going to admit. But I'm getting my lines mixed up. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. Well, Lauren,
Lauren,
thank you very much for the call. We're actually going to move on from this subject, so don't go anywhere. We're going to get into the Yale Law School, proving that SJWs exist on the right. So don't go anywhere because we're going to dive into that. This is The Call to Freedom. All right, welcome back. This is The Call to Freedom, and as always, I'd like to remind you that our podcasts have moved and are no longer being uploaded to Spreaker. They can instead be found on Podbean at calltofreedomlive.podbean.com, or you can use Spotify or Google Play Music, or eventually iTunes, because I've again started putting that off. I was actually going to do it today, like legit. I was sitting in front of my computer to do it today. But I had to work on an overlay that I had not been able to finish yesterday because I instead came to the studio to record the audio for a script, from a script for a video that I'm working on. And Saturday was when I actually started the overlay. And since that show, Aria Uncensored, debuts tonight, the overlay absolutely had to be done. So the iTunes thing got pushed back to the side again. But
it'll get done eventually.
It will get done tomorrow. The overlay's done now. Like I said, it had to be done today. And yesterday I was recording the audio here at the studio for an upcoming video because I am sick to death of this stupid egg thing and people commenting the Shemale versus Nazi video on YouTube about it. So,
people don't understand why the egg doesn't exist?
No. So once and for all, I've made a video that while I am making a video. So far, all I've done is record the audio and start putting together video segments and clips and things like that for the video, but I'm just going to start directing people to it. Go watch this. This is where I explain 100% why you're wrong and why the egg is not there, because it's so retarded. But anyway, so according to the USA Today, and an opinion from Samuel Atkinson, who seems to lean sort of toward the right, so good on USA Today for that, Yale Law School now endorses anti-religious bigotry. He says that what starts in the ivory tower of academia, including blatant discrimination against religious groups and students, will not stay there for long. This is why recent events at Yale Law School are so disturbing. In an effort to appease campus protesters, Yale announced that it would begin discriminating against religious students. This is not what they announced. This should concern all who value intellectual diversity and religious freedom. But even more troubling is the fact that this anti-religious bigotry is unlikely to continue itself to the ivory tower for long.
It's unlikely to confine itself?
Okay, yeah, thank you. I read it as continue. Why is he... I guess I get it that colleges and universities, especially places like Yale, are sort of ivory towers.
Yeah, they always have been.
But that's twice within the first 3 paragraphs of this article that he's used that phrase. Come on, man. Get a thesaurus. In February, the Yale Federalist Society scheduled an event with Christian Wagner, an attorney at Alliance Defending Freedom, one of the nation's premier religious liberty organizations. Wagner recently argued Masterpiece Cake Shop versus Colorado Civil Rights Commission before the Supreme Court and won in a 7-2 vote. The case involved anti-religious discrimination against a Colorado baker. And that's true. And the Civil Rights Commission did discriminate against him, and they made it very clear that they were discriminating against him.
Yep.
As Justice Elena Kagan explained, the government acted unconstitutionally because it exhibited hostility to religious views. Now, one might expect an event with a successful Supreme Court advocate to be welcomed at an elite law school.
No, it won't be.
But before the event had even taken place, more than 20 student organizations publicly condemned the event and speaker. The problem? Wagner's orthodox Christian beliefs and a commitment to religious liberty. Parroting Southern Poverty Law Center talking points, protesters claim she worked for a homophobic, transphobic hate group.
Yep, if you are religious and you are a lawyer and you're in Alliance Defending Freedom, you are a homophobic, transphobic hate group.
Well, even if that's true, so what? Why wouldn't they want to hear what she has to say just because she's homophobic and transphobic? That doesn't invalidate anything she has to say about any other subjects.
Yes, it does.
It shouldn't. And I realize it does in the eyes of these virulent politically people, but it shouldn't.
Yeah, anything the Southern Poverty Law Center says is a hate group and cannot be tolerated. Tolerance? No, we don't tolerate.
Is the SPLC still taken seriously anywhere? I mean, aren't they a hate group?
The SPLC, I mean, they've been discredited for a long time, but yeah, people still take them seriously.
But apparently, Alliance Defending Freedom has won 9 Supreme Court cases in the last 7 years. Par for the course at Ivy League institutions, a list of demands soon followed.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
The organizations called on Dean Heather Gerken to implement policies that would make it more difficult for students to work at discriminatory organizations, like those promoting religious liberty. They also asked her to consider denying admission to applicants who worked on certain religious liberty aspects before law school. Such lists are normally good for a laugh, and this one seemed no different. But in late March, Yale Law School adopted a novel tactic, one-upping the protesters. It announced 3 major policy changes that went further than any of the protesters' demands, all under the guise of an expanded non-discrimination policy. And this is where USA Today does what I think it was Vice or Salon or somebody did last week, characterizing the Supreme Court's decision about executions as torture, and just completely jumps the shark.
Okay, what have they done?
The new policies require all employers to swear that when hiring students or graduates who benefit from certain Yale funding, they will not consider an applicant's religion, religious creed, gender identity, or gender expression, among other factors. So basically, you can't hire people who benefit from, who get money from Yale, if you discriminate against people on the basis of religion, religious creed, gender identity, or gender expression.
Okay.
I don't know what the problem is or why anyone is taking issue with this. So they said, we won't subsidize your company hiring people when you're discriminating against people on the basis of religion and gender. And people are butthurt about this. The effect of this, for instance, is that if a Yale student or graduate wishes to work for an organization that does consider religion in hiring, which is I'm pretty sure, illegal. Say,
not if you're a church.
Say a Catholic organization or Jewish advocacy group, Yale will cut them off from 3 important programs. I don't think even church groups are allowed to do this. You're not allowed to ask somebody their religious practices before you hire them. It's just sort of assumed that if somebody's going to work for an overtly Christian organization, that they're more than likely to be a Christian. But
I don't know. I've never tried to work for one.
I have not either, but I'm almost positive, and I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but I am almost positive that the Civil Rights Act, what is it called?
The Civil Rights Act, the one of 1964?
The employment one.
Well, the equal employment opportunity something.
Yeah, the equal employment opportunity crap. I'm almost positive it mentions religion in there. So they would be violating federal law to hire somebody because they're Christian or because they're not Christian. I'm going to have to check that when we go to the break because I don't want to say things that are not true on the air. And if I do, I want to correct them. But I know they include race, gender identity. Well, they don't include gender identity, not at the federal level. But sex, sexual orientation, and several other things that are protected. I would be stunned to find that religion is not in there. But first, Yale will ban them from receiving the school's summer public interest funding, which is more important than it sounds. Between students' first and second year of law school, they typically volunteer at nonprofits or in government. Most law firms, quite understandably, are not interested in hiring first-year students. To help defray students' living expenses during this first summer, Yale offers financial grants. Last summer, Yale provided more than $1.9 million to more than 200 students. So it's a fairly significant amount of money, but it basically comes back to what I said, that if you're an organization that hires people on the basis of religious belief, then Yale won't subsidize that by effectively paying your employees for you so that you don't have to.
Right.
Now, this could certainly be harmful to those students who are between their first and second years, but you would imagine that they can make the choice about where to work and where not to work. Well, this is the Call to Freedom, and we're going to dig further into this alt-right, into this rightist SJWism. Welcome back. This is the Call to Freedom. As always, I'm your host, Aria DeMezzo of theanarchistgmail.com, getting ready for another 4 hours of live radio here on LRN.FM, and then kicking off, launching the new show, Aria Uncensored, which will feature me saying totally uncensored things. We will be taking calls throughout the show as well. The same rules apply to Aria Uncensored that apply to the Call to Freedom, only you can swear. That's really the only difference for callers. For me, I can say anything that comes to mind, but I don't racist things like, people are tempted to say don't come to my mind, so I can be uncensored.
Right.
I will also be completely topless, and I think that's going to have interesting results.
Yeah, that's what everyone's going to tune in for.
I don't think so.
You know?
I doubt it.
You didn't promote this nearly as widely as you did Shemale versus Nazi.
Well, I mean, we only kicked off the idea of Call to Freedom last week, last Monday, last Tuesday?
Week, yeah.
And since then, I've been kicking around ideas in my head about how to actually pursue this show because, Free Talk Live comes on immediately after we do. So hanging around for 3 hours is not ideal. But, I mean, we certainly could return or whatever. There's possibilities there. But it's got to be on a Monday or Tuesday. That was another concern. Preferably Monday. But so I've been kicking around ideas about how to pursue this because it needed a hook, right? It needed some reason for people to watch it beyond just me being uncensored. Now, it appears that a lot of people are interested in that particular aspect of it. But then while the trolls, everybody should go out there and thank the Arab Andy Troll Group for giving me the idea.
Oh,
because they love posting this picture of me where I had a nip slip on the Call to Freedom when I was sitting there in the chair you're sitting in, probably in October no, it would have been earlier than that because I was wearing a dress, so it was still kind of warm. But I had brown hair, which was unusual. Mm-hmm. I didn't have brown hair long, thank God. But I was just wearing a dress, not wearing a bra or anything like that, and had a nip slip. And they took a screenshot of it, and they have kept it and shared it all around the internet. Because, I mean, they're operating under the assumption that, it embarrasses me. Because,
and it doesn't.
No, I don't care at all. But the whole conversation we ended up having Friday, I think it was, or may have been Thursday, about nipples and things like that. I am not covering up my nipples with duct tape. No, in fact, I got them re-pierced just for this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get them re-pierced. They were still pierced, They were starting to grow up. But not any. I mean, it was painful to shove the barbells back through them, but that's painful if you have them out for 2 months or 2 days.
Yeah.
So it's going to be great. Be sure to tune in for it. But I mean, just bring up twitch.lrn.fm and just leave it on for the next 7 hours.
6, yeah.
Because it's all going to be great. Because immediately after us, of course, is Free Talk Live, which I will be on tonight along with Melanie and Mark Edge. So it's just going to be fun for me all around. I've not decided yet whether or not I'm going to be drinking during Aria Uncensored. I'm still waiting on feedback from that. Because depending on who you ask, I'm either better and funnier when I'm drunk or I'm just not. So that ball is still in the air.
Yeah.
But we'll make a decision on that. And, of course, the person you hear, I'm joined in the studio today by
Michael Hampton from BitcoinHistory.com.
I mean, you would have been invited for Aria Uncensored if you wanted to. Wanted to.
I'm going to just watch this one.
Yeah, it's going to be a train wreck, I think. I really think it is. I'm curious to know how long because I was just going to do this on my Twitch channel, right? Because I fully expect a ban. Twitch is not going to be happy about this. They've never done anything to the Free Talk Live crew, who during the summer especially is generally topless, right?
Right.
That's a good idea. One sub or episode for one article of clothing taken off.
Huh. Hey.
I don't wear enough clothes to do that.
You'd be done after 3 subs.
Yeah.
Or...
That would be amusing.
It'd be funny.
That would be an absolute certain permanent life ban, though. And I don't want to do that. Not to my own channel or to LRN's channel. I think if there is a ban at all, it's going to be a 30-day temporary one.
Yeah, that's just making it obvious.
Yeah. But, I thought about that because there used to be a show here on LRN.FM, or I don't think it was streamed anywhere, but Derek J was on it, and they did it naked. So I thought about just going the full distance, but no. It would be pointless because that wouldn't be shown on Twitch anyway, right. Obviously, right? So, I mean, there's no point. There's no point in going that far. But it's going to be great. I'm really interested to see what's going to happen. A lot of people said, well, stream it to Facebook so we can find out, what their take on female presenting nipples or trans nipples is. But I already know their position because I've gone shirtless through most of my life, and it wasn't until I started transitioning that I began just, okay, yeah, I guess I can't just go outside topless anymore. Well, I can, but now it'll upset the neighbors, so I don't. But I did continue uploading pics of me topless right up until Facebook stopped allowing them.
You know, the thing about that is you go outside topless now and it'll upset the neighbors. Isn't that the neighbor's problem? Why is that your problem?
It is the neighbor's problem. I don't know, and it really makes me angry because I like suntanning in the actual sun. And because I look great with a tan. I'm just saying, I do. I know I do. But when I lived in Mississippi, you know, I lived in rural Mississippi, so I could just go out there, park my car, lay on top of it, completely butt naked, and get all the sun up. Well, I was wearing a sock over things because you don't want a sunburn there. So I was wearing a sock, one sock, for those who can't piece that together.
You could put sunscreen on it, right?
I guess you could. But that starts getting into other territory, I would imagine. Anyway, and I can't do that here. I'm not aware. I mean, there are nude beaches and things like that, but I'm not going to drive out to a nude beach because I did this like every day. I'm not going to drive out to a nude beach just to suntan. I'll just hit up a tanning bed or something like that. And people are like, oh, yeah, that's a good way to get cancer. Look, I smoke, man. I'm going to die of cancer anyway. I'd rather not lose my, half of my face or whatever to skin cancer, but...
we all have to go sometime.
Yeah, I don't plan on living that long anyway, to be totally honest. So, but knowing my luck, I'm going to live to be 150 years old because I don't plan to live past 50. But anyway, so that's what's going on in our world. And what's going on in USA Today's world is this guy being really butthurt that Yale is no longer willing to give money to people who discriminate on the basis of religion. Now, I have put up the Equal Employment Opportunity Commissions Act because we talked about it a moment ago, but it absolutely does protect against religious discrimination.
Right.
It protects not only people who belong to traditional organized religions such as Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, and Judaism, but also others who have sincerely held religious, ethical, or moral beliefs. So I don't know how churches and things like that get around it.
They don't have an exemption for that?
Not that I've seen. Now, I have not read the full text, but I would imagine that it's mostly just a matter of your average atheist is not going to attempt to become a preacher at a Southern Baptist church. But even then, your qualifications for doing that are not... I don't think they're actually going to ever require the person to be Christian as much as they would, being able to do the job, which is to teach the Christian creed. And you're not going to find many atheists willing to do that in the first place. I would love to do that.
Oh, that would be worth going to church for.
Is that Aria's next shenanigans? I might, but I'm not in the South anymore, so there aren't any churches with which to do that.
Well, we could start Aria Southern Baptist Church of Peace.
That's a great idea. We might have to look into that. This is the Call to Freedom. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. This is the Call to Freedom. You're invited to give us a call at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Or you can use the Discord call-in lines at discord.lrn.fm. And that's how Lauren the Game Freak actually called in earlier. And the quality always shocks me at just how clear it is. Versus like Rev or someone else who calls regularly with the landlines where there's just a lot of I mean, that's no fault of the landline here at the studio or anything like that. It's just an issue with landlines.
Yeah, it's just the nature of the nature of the network. I mean,
it's not even landlines, is
so
it?
much bandwidth.
Cell phones don't have any clearer quality.
Yeah,
for the most part, which is curious. I would expect them to have better quality than your average rotary telephone.
They could, but they don't.
They don't. They certainly don't. But moving back to this article from the USA Today, where this right-leaning social justice warrior just has totally lost his mind because Yale is like, hey, there are companies out there hiring our students who discriminate on the basis of religion, and we don't approve of that. And he thinks, well, they should be able to discriminate on the basis of religion. Well, duh. And, I would agree, realistically, I would agree that you should be able to discriminate. If you're an employer, you should be able to discriminate against anybody you want for any reason you want. I would argue that it's stupid to ignore huge sections of the population that may be qualified to do a particular job on the basis of these arbitrary characteristics that have no tie whatsoever to their ability to do said job. But if you want to be an idiot and run your business into the ground by hiring someone who is less qualified for the task or less effective at the task because they're black, then you go right ahead and run yourself into the ground. I mean, that's my take on it. So if you only want to hire religious people, then you go right ahead and ignore the very likely possibility that someone who is not religious is better qualified for that task.
It could happen.
But moving on, the Yale will also ban graduates from participating in the school's loan assistance program. The basic idea is simple. If a student graduates, works full-time, and makes below a certain income threshold, Yale will help with their loan payments. Sound too good to be true? Well, it sounds stupid. It sounds absolutely stupid. Why wouldn't they just lower their tuition costs so that people didn't have to take out these exorbitant student loans in the first place? That might make more sense, but it's because the government guarantees that you qualify for that student loan, which guarantees that they're going to get that money.
Yep, that's why they raised the price.
Yale previously boasted that this program covered all jobs in all sectors. No longer. Well, it won't cover those jobs that are violating federal law, at the least. So again, speaking from that perspective that, one shouldn't discriminate on the basis of religion, I just don't see what the issue is. It is one of the best colleges. I certainly agree with that.
Yeah.
But somebody has pointed that out on Twitch. But, I've not always said this, but college is only expensive for people who don't belong there. If you belong at a university, you will qualify for enough grants because of your high GPA, because of your abilities, because of whatever, that it won't really cost you much to go there. You won't have to take out student loans and all this other things. I would argue that the first test anyone fails in regard to colleges and university is taking out that student loan to pay for them. Because that's life. That's the universe. That's the market. That's evolution telling them that they don't belong there in the first place. And they're going to pay for that with money for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, or longer.
Yeah, and I realize this is not a very popular position, but it's one I believe to be true.
The thing about that is there's kind of a backlash that's been going on these days because just in various vocational trades, they can't find enough people, and the salaries have gone, like, just for plumbers and construction workers, things like that, the salaries are going through the roof because there aren't enough people because they're all in college.
I could understand taking out a student loan to pay for a vocational or trade school. I wouldn't necessarily agree that it's a good idea, but I do understand why someone would do it. Because, that's like, in regards to trades and things like that, it's very similar in practice to guilds of the old ages.
Mm-hmm.
The difference now is that, you're not an apprentice. Technically speaking, so you're not making somebody else money, and that's the way this apprenticeship mentoring thing worked in the past, right? Where you would mentor under a mason, and they would be more than willing to do it because you gave them free labor and things like that during your apprenticeship. You helped them make money, so of course they didn't charge you to do it. Of course, we're no longer in that world, but there are still apprenticeship apprentices. Oh, screw it. There are still such programs available.
Yeah, there are things like that.
I don't know why I got so tongue-tied trying to say that. Third, Yale will ban them for receiving one of the school's 30-plus postgraduate fellowships. These prestigious fellowships offer a year of funding for students to serve in a nonprofit or government position. So essentially, what Yale is doing is saying, we're not going to continue giving you money if you discriminate against people on the basis of religious belief. And didn't this Supreme Court case that they alluded to earlier in this article, wasn't it literally about people discriminating against people on the basis of religion?
Yeah, but the Supreme Court case went the other way.
I don't think it did, actually. I think it ruled that, you're not allowed to discriminate against people on the basis of religion. And Yale here is saying that we're not going to pay you or subsidize you if you discriminate against people on the basis of religion. So I would argue, yes, and none of these are positions that I hold, as I said earlier. If you want to discriminate against somebody, go right ahead. I don't really care. I've been on the receiving end of that with people who didn't want to do business with me because I'm trans. I don't want to do business with them. Screw them. You don't want to bake me a cake? I don't want to eat your cake.
Yeah, you'd probably put something in it.
Yeah, I would not eat the cake of someone who was like, no, I don't approve of your lifestyle, and I don't want to bake you a cake. I would not want to go get an armed thug and put a gun to their head and say, you're going to bake me this cake or this guy's going to blow your brains out. Because first of all, whatever kind of cake you get from that, even if they don't poison it, it's not going to be a good cake.
Nope.
People do not behave well with a gun against their heads. And there are always people out there, and this was not always the case, certainly allowing open discrimination in like the state of Mississippi around the civil rights era, certainly doomed a large number of people of color to fates that they shouldn't have had to endure because it was institutionalized at that point. But society has moved forward, and we're no longer in those same situations. In today's world, and again, I'm from Mississippi, so I can say this pretty definitively. If you were a Mississippi business and you put a no black sign on your window, your little office there is going to get burned to the ground. And white people and black people alike will beat the crap out of you for being a racist piece of crap. And I'm not in support of the aggression there. But we no longer live in the 1950s. We no longer live in the Jim Crow era. And I think it's important to recognize that and to realize that the only reason we got to those points in the first place was because of the state. Welcome back. This is the Call to Freedom, broadcast as always from the Liberty Radio studio here in Keene, New Hampshire. And it just occurred to me that this music really makes me want to play Binding of Isaac. It's a really good game. Very hard, but it's very Zelda-esque, only also kind of roguelike, so it's pretty random, and you're not going to survive like 75% of playthroughs. I've got like 140 hours in it on my Steam page, and that's just when I'm online and playing, because for a long period of time I had to tether my phone for internet connection, so I very rarely just did that to play video games, so a lot of those hours don't count, which I learned when I was reviewing Venetica for Cube 3. It was the first game I ever reviewed for them that I wanted to review, which could have been such a good game, but it wasn't. But I had the same internet connection then, so I wasn't tethered while I played it. Zelda is definitely the best game ever. I beat it swordless. You can watch that on my YouTube channel. It took about 4 hours. No, Ocarina of Time. I'm currently playing through Ocarina of Time with only 3 hearts, without getting any of the heart containers or heart container pieces. But that's really easy to do. Beating the original Zelda with no sword is significantly harder than any way that you can play Ocarina of Time. But what the hell was I saying? Oh, yeah, Venetica. Steam doesn't track your time played if you're offline while you play the game. So I played this game and reviewed it for this website. And then got some criticism because of my review, because they were like, hey, look, it's showing you've only played this game for 2 hours here. How are you going to write this review for this game and you've only played it for 2 hours? So I had to sort that out, and I was like, okay, I see what happened here. Steam does not track your time played when you're actually not connected to the internet, which is good to know when you're reviewing games, and you're kind of expected to play them all the way through. Although that actually wasn't an expectation, that was something I imposed on myself. I felt like I needed to at least beat the game before I finished it, unless it was just so bad that I couldn't finish it, or just so long that I couldn't finish it in the amount of time that was allotted to me to play through it and review it. Like, I can't think of it. Actually, there weren't any. Well, Disgaea for PC, technically. I reviewed that and didn't complete it because I ended up spending, 20 hours running a macro on my computer that caused my little characters to just go out there and grind for 20 consecutive hours with no input from me. So when I came back, they were all level 9,999. Because that's what you do in Disgaea when you deal 47 million damage to a thing. Great game. I would highly recommend people play it. Of course, Binding of Isaac. I do not need more Metroid in my life. I am not a big fan of Metroid. I don't like the Metroidvania style games, like Symphony of the Night and things like that. I want to like them, but I just don't. But anyway, so we've been talking about, sorry about that, video games, they can always get my attention. And I don't even know how we got to the subject, the music.
The music bed, yeah.
But this Christian, presumably, is upset that under the guise of non-discrimination, Yale has announced it will blatantly discriminate. Oh, God, that gave me a headache. So saying that you're not going to pay people who discriminate on the basis of religion, to be fair, technically, that is discriminating against people who discriminate on the basis of religion. No, he's Mortified Penguin. He's referring to 1080, I think. 1080 degree snowboarding on the N64. That would be my guess. But anyway, it is technically discrimination to do a thing like that. Like, that was the issue I had with Mississippi's religious freedom law when they attempted to pass it. Was that there is a JonTron video about California games. Twitch chat, it's very interactive at the moment, so they keep distracting me because I love interacting with our audience, right?
Right.
But they mentioned California games. There's a JonTron video about California games. If you've never seen it or you don't know who JonTron is, you got to go watch that video. Just Google JonTron California games. It is absolutely hilarious. Electrode, whatever. I would need you to call in to explain that. I'm not sure how anything I advocated suggested that slavery should be legal. Certainly, if a person doesn't want to enter into a consensual relationship with somebody else. Oh, because you're technically restricting someone's right to own a person. Well, no, you're not, because no one has the right to own another person.
Right.
Unless the other person consents to that. And that, to me, is the distinguishing characteristic of anarchism or voluntarism for those who wish to avoid the word anarchism, right? Is that every interaction between people has to be voluntary. No force allowed. So if somebody goes, hey, I want to be your slave, and there's certainly people out there who would do that. No, it's Monday. Monday, Homer Jr. Topless Tuesday, Topless Aria on Tuesday. That's incorrect. I changed the day. It's tonight at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, just after Free Talk Live. And it's going to be here on the LRN Twitch channel. So just sit there for the next 3 hours and 20 minutes, and it will be starting.
And you'll see Aria the whole time, too. So.
Yeah. I think I'll probably be right there for the next 3 hours, though, which is good because that for me is like a break. Anyway, so it's going to be great. But every interaction between people should be voluntary. Even if somebody goes, hey, I want to be completely subservient to you, and I want you to have total control over me, as long as they voluntarily submit to that, I'm fine with it. And even if they want to enter the relationship in such terms as, I am forever barred from leaving this relationship, that might start getting into sort of problematic territory if they ever sincerely want to leave it and they've forever given up their right to do so. Well, at that point, not really. It would be a violation of the contract, but I think everybody would be fine with that particular violation.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
No. So certainly, and I mean, some contracts are just immoral in the first place and probably should be disputed by the participants if, there is reason for it to be. But as long as all interactions are consensual and voluntary, I don't care if someone wishes to become someone else's slave. And obviously, what immediately comes to mind, I guess for me, but I'm a pervert, is sex slavery.
Yeah.
Which people do voluntarily submit themselves to with some sort of regularity. I don't get it, but hey, to each their own, right? And as long as they can walk away from this relationship, it never ceases to be consensual. So I don't really care, taking someone and forcing them to do a thing against their will is immoral. And it is, quote unquote, illegal in the voluntarist society. Obviously, it's not illegal because you need force and violence and aggression to enforce legality. But, it's frowned upon enough that in this ideal society, people would not do it, right?
Right.
And I think that is ultimately the goal. And that's why I point out that, we're not going to have this here on Earth, We're not going to eliminate all the people who would use force, violence, and coercion because the only way we could do that would be by using force, violence, and coercion. And this leaves only the option of waiting until we're out there colonizing the stars because there's nowhere here on Earth where we can do this. Every acre of land here on the planet is claimed by some government or another. You cannot escape the state here.
So basically what we're going to have to do is build a spaceship, go to Mars, take only voluntarists, and, well,
yeah. And
did you know that the FAA wants you to have a license to fly a spaceship?
Well, we'll be leaving their jurisdiction. So as long as we can make it out of orbit, we can do our little fleeing Hoth thing and just get the hell out.
As long as you don't come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really do.
And I doubt we would come back because there's not much reason to. But I mean, that is sad. It is the condition here on Earth. And that's why people are like, why don't you just move to Somalia? Because Somalia has a state, you idiot. We don't want to move from one plantation to the next. That doesn't solve anything. We want to move to a parcel of land where we can be free. And there isn't one here on Earth. We'll tell you more. All right, welcome back to the Call to Freedom. And maybe you really listen to the show regularly and have been wondering how you can help and show your support. Social media shares go a long way, but so does cash. And you can do that with Patreon at patreon.com/Call to Freedom. Our wonderful patrons there are currently helping to keep the show up and running, including both the podcast at calltofreedomlive.podbean.com and the website at calltofreedomlive.com. I'm thinking about just taking calltofreedomlive.com and just having it just as a podcast source. We don't do anything else with it anyway. It just sits there as a static page.
Well, so that's not very useful.
No, just point people to calltofreedomlive.com for the podcasts.
Yeah, that could work. Just have it redirect to Podbean then?
Yeah, okay. Most likely. We can't thank those people enough for showing their support for our efforts by helping to ensure that our efforts are ongoing. Once more, that's patreon.com/calltofreedom if you would like to check it out. Now, we're going to completely ignore everything else we've been discussing today because I'm in charge of the show and I get to do that. And because Michael brought in a really interesting and, I would say, moronic piece from...
Yeah, scientists can be very moronic.
Yeah, from Nova. Apparently, physicists have confirmed that we're not living in a computer simulation. Now...
So they say.
Well, yeah, so they say. But
I've been worried about this. I mean, I seriously, I drive down the road sometimes and I wonder to myself, I guess it doesn't matter if I get hit by oncoming traffic because this is most likely a computer simulation.
Well, apparently they don't understand logic or infinity or zero. because they don't seem to know what they're talking about. They've discovered that it's impossible to model the physics of our universe on even the biggest computer within our universe. So basically what they're pointing out, or what they think is a revelation, is that you can't take something that's bigger than a computer and cram it into a computer. I mean,
what is a zip file?
Well, it's not bigger than the computer.
If it was on paper, it would be. I'm sorry. You're dealing with somebody who does not understand this stuff.
What they're essentially wanting to do in those terms is take a 400 gigabyte zip file and fit it onto a 200 gigabyte hard drive.
Okay.
And they're going, well, obviously you can't put a zip file onto a hard drive because this one won't hold this huge file.
Get a bigger hard drive.
Yeah, I mean, you're familiar with Minecraft and things like that, right? Well, okay. People have made computers within Minecraft. Actual 16-bit. I think one lunatic even made a 32-bit computer, right?
Okay.
So you can make a computer within Minecraft, but what you can't do, because it requires dividing by zero effectively, it requires infinity, is create Minecraft within Minecraft.
Okay.
You might be able to put together a computer that technically would be capable of running Minecraft. But to actually program the game within Minecraft to run Minecraft, it's impossible from the beginning, because Minecraft has to get bigger to accommodate a thing like that.
Well, let me ask you this: if we're using the universe then as the bucket into which we put the universe, then could we not put, say, a solar system with a universe, a universe backdrop into a universe-sized bucket, or just a bucket larger than the solar system? So what I'm saying is that at this point we've been told that travel outside the solar system might be impossible.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And thus, we have all the land that is available in the solar system. Start looking at Mars and Venus if you're interested. Maybe some near-Earth objects or the asteroid belt. So it could be, if you can't travel outside the solar system, that the universe beyond the solar system is simply a simulation, an illusion,
sure,
made to look like, and it would be a very good illusion. I would presume that the computer programs are very good at fooling things within their programs that they're real or whatever. So, I mean, I guess that's my question: is
whether or not everything outside of our solar system could still be a simulation.
Possibly.
Well, that we would be a better simulation inside the solar system. Is a simulation inside, but there's actually it's just the wallpaper on the simulation, right? So the solar system is this room. The universe is simply the wallpaper that has no real depth. It's just
right.
Look,
it just has the illusion of depth.
It just has the illusion of depth. So therefore, you have a much smaller, bucket into which to put a computer at that point.
So effectively, they would just be simulating our solar system,
I guess.
Well, the issue they seem to have is that they can't just cut our universe down in size like that.
Okay.
They're having issues with the computations, the quantum objects moving through various dimensions. And what they found is that classical computer systems, can't create the mathematics necessary to describe quantum systems.
So our systems today aren't good enough to run a simulation as large enough for a universe? Surprise. And that doesn't surprise me at all.
No, it's 100% logical. I would be stunned if somehow they had found a way to compute the universe's mathematics.
But somebody will someday, right?
I don't think so.
I mean, it
seems like it would be impossible.
But it's just movement.
Well, fair enough. They may be able to simulate the mathematics, sure, but they would never be able to simulate our reality. They would never be able to simulate the entire universe.
I don't know whether I agree with that. I
don't know whether or not I agree with that, actually, come to think about it, because there's certainly a difference between simulating a thing and actually doing a thing.
Well, the way they've described it in this article, it sounds a whole lot like your Minecraft computer that doesn't run.
Yeah, because that's essentially what they're saying here, is that we can't build Minecraft within Minecraft, and that's just a matter of logic, obviously, because to accommodate that, Minecraft, the program, has to get bigger. And as it gets bigger, it raises the complexity of the thing you have to simulate. And it just sort of gets into this arms race of, oh, okay, A is always going to be bigger than B by definition. Because in order to accommodate B, A has to get bigger.
Now, the other thing is they hedged their bets there in that quote you just read. They said classical computers most certainly aren't controlling our universe. They didn't say anything about quantum computers or types of computers we don't know about yet.
And I think it's probably, if there's any evidence whatsoever that we are living in a simulation, which I don't think it even matters whether we're in a simulation or not, but I think it's probably, I don't want to say indisputable, but it's certain. Well, I don't want to say certain either. It is highly likely that we are living in what we would characterize as a digital world. And that's because at those levels, there is a sort of, what is the word I'm looking for? I can't do this live on the air. I can't. I would have to write this down because it does involve quantum mechanics.
Well, she's trying to do the math in her head and talk at the same time. And I couldn't do the math in my head, period, let alone sometimes I just can't talk.
Yeah, doing quantum physics live on the air is challenging for all of us.
But basically, like every particle ultimately comes down to a minimum size. Every particle of light has a minimum size. Light packets, quantum, what do they call it? Photons.
Photons.
Yeah. It turns out to be true of every particle and every type of energy, electromagnetic energy, obviously, radio waves and all of that. They break down into a fundamental particle that can't get any smaller than that. It's called the Planck size, or the
Planck's constant.
Yeah. And there's also a smallest distance, a smallest amount of time that can pass, and all of these other things. And to me, that suggests it's operating digitally, or what we would characterize as digitally, because what we call the difference between analog and digital is actually an illusion itself, because analog is also constantly stopping and going, which we know now, but we didn't know then. But basically the difference is the hertz.
The frequency
at which these things, if it's above 44.1 kilohertz or something like that, is considered to be digital. If it's above like 400,000 is considered to be analog. I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but there's no real difference between them, just like there's no real difference between UHF and VHF for those who remember old school television. But we call them different because for so long we thought
this
about
one's
them.
ultra high and the other one's very high.
Yeah. I've always thought that was weird.
It doesn't make sense.
But so these physicists have looked at this and they said A is bigger than B. So how can we make B equal to A, and then throw their hands up and go, oh, well, our universe can't be a simulation. That's effectively what they've done. And again, they're focusing entirely on classical computers when quantum computing, which I'm not an expert on and hardly know anything about.
So do the people that, neither do the people who are doing quantum computing.
That's what I would guess. I mean, nobody understands quantum mechanics, even these physicists here, because it's just that complex of a subject.
What I hear here is Grog and Tharg saying no simulation. That's what I hear. I mean, like, who are these people and what gives them the audacity to say that they have figured this stuff out?
That is an excellent question.
Flat. Moo.
Well, this has been The Call to Freedom. Don't go anywhere because Free Talk Live is coming up next.